Hi, I'm Bill Zwecker, and welcome to Behind the Scenes, our regular video snapshot of what's happening on the entertainment scene in the Chicago area. Jake Clemons, the nephew of the late, great Clarence Clemons, and his replacement as the E Street Band's lead saxophonist, will be performing his solo act Friday, March 28th at Shuba's in Lakeview. Fans of Clint Black will want to know that the country star is on the bill at the North Shore Center for the Performing Arts in Skokie, presenting an acoustic show. Now that's also happening on Friday the 28th.
Take me to the roof and show me.
The amazing Meklit Hadero, known to all of her fans simply as Meklit, will bring her eclectic musical stylings that combine the best of jazz and folk with East African influences as well to her show at Space in Evanston. That's happening on Tuesday night, March 25th. Without question, Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats is one of the most successful shows in the history of musical theater. A new production of the hit show opens at the Marriott Lincolnshire Theater on Wednesday the 26th. Now let's take a look at what's going on at Broadway in Chicago.
Hi, I'm David Viggiano, and today we're going to talk about Broadway and Chicago's newest show, Peter and the Starcatcher. I sat down with the show's star, Joey DeBettencourt. Tell me a little bit about the show. A lot of people hasn't been in Chicago, so a lot of people aren't too familiar with it.
Yeah, so Peter and the Starcatcher is a play. It's considered a play with music. It does have music, and we have two musicians with the whole time. And what it is it's the story of how Peter Pan became Peter Pan. And it's based off a book by Ridley Pearson and Dave Barry. So Ridley Pearson's like the thriller writer, a suspense writer, and Dave Barry, the columnist from like the Miami Herald.
So yeah, it's the comedy.
Exactly, and then the play was written by Rick Ellis, who did Jersey Boys, and so it's a show that is really, it's almost like a contemporary vaudeville show, I say, and a lot of times in the style, because it's very physical, there's movement, also just some really amazing acting as well as song and dance, and through that, all that really inventive storytelling, you get these stories of how Peter Pan became Peter Pan, how you end up with Captain Hook, and a lot of our favorite characters from Peter Pan make appearances in this story.
So it's a lot to live up to, telling a story, an iconic story like Peter Pan, and then going back and building up to it. Do you, what kind of reaction have you gotten from people? Do you think that, are people pretty accepting of this story, or do they like, wait a minute?
Yeah, well, you know, it's kind of like Wicked.
Yes.
Like it's got some elements to it that are a little, you know, the grittier, kind of like an interesting look at the characters, I think, and looking at it in a different way, just like Wicked took it and, you know, turned the Wicked Witch of the West kind of thing on its head a little bit. We have the same thing happening here with, like, you know, you get the backstories of who people are and get to look at them from a different perspective. That being said, I think that when people see it, they also really love just kind of, when they get it, they're like, oh, that's that character, you know. Really early on, Smee is a character who's like really recognizable and starts out with, you know, the same name. He's already kind of like who we know him to be. And when that name comes out, you hear the audience, they're like, oh yeah, that's Smee, you know. And so people's reaction are really good, and I think it's kind of a fun, you know, J.M. Barrie, the author of Peter Pan, never gave us really that backstory of who Peter is, so it's kind of a fun.
You just had to kind of accept him for who he was.
Yeah, and I guess he always intended on going back and writing it and never did, and so this is kind of a great, you know, two creative authors got together and we're like, well, how do we explain to our kids who Peter Pan is? And so I think a lot of times people really like that about the story, and like seeing him as a person before he is like the legend or whatever. It's just like he's a kid.
Is it specifically geared for kids?
It's geared for it, you know, and it says in the tagline that it's also the, you know, a grown-ups prequel, and so it appeals to the whole range of things. And what I say is it's best when we have a mix, you know, because the kids and younger audiences, or even the, you know, high school and young adult, they really get into different aspects than the older crowds will get into, and it's best when we have a huge range, because you'll hear that, you know, those kids' laughter, and you can hear it, you know, when you're doing these big performances, and you'll hear those like kids really catching into maybe the slapstick or pop culture references, which there are some in the script, and they love those. But then also, like, there's like a Walt Whitman reference that, you know, like my dad thought was like the funniest thing. You know what I mean? So it's a show that definitely, like they say, 10 and up needs to be for a kid who's like, reading and can follow along, because there's, plot, and the books are kind of that age range too. But I would say that it's a fun thing that if you're adult, young adult, kid, there's a lot of people who can enjoy it for different reasons.
Can you sum up this show in one sentence?
I think I'm going to say an imaginative retelling of a story that we know and love, Peter Pan.
And everyone's going to love it.
Everyone's going to love it, yeah.
Great. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
You can see Joey DeBettencourt in Peter and the Starcatcher at the Bank of America Theater through April 13th. For Broadway in Chicago, I'm David Viggiano.
On Tuesday, March 25th, Erth's Dinosaur Zoo Live, sure to be a hit with the kids, will open at the Broadway Theater at Water Tower Place. Looking for a few good laughs, and hopefully a lot more than a few? That'll be part of the improv creativity showcased in the new main stage Revue at Chicago's legendary Second City in Old Town. The new show has yet another clever title, a Second City tradition. This one's called Depraved New World. It opens on Thursday night, the 27th. For more entertainment offerings, check out my blog or go to Voices here at suntimes.com. Thanks for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you next time at Behind the Scenes. I'm Bill Zwecker of the Chicago Sun-Times.